We're ready whenever this clock rolls over 5:30.
Evening. My name is Gary Darnielle. I'm the Salem Hearings Officer. And for the record, it's 5:30 evening, Wednesday of September 20, 2024. So this evening we have one item on our docket. The hearing concerns a consolidated application for a Class 2 Willamette Greenway permit, a subdivision tentative plan, a Class 3 site plan review, a Class 2 adjustment, a Class 1 adjustment, and a Class 2 driveway approach permit for a mixed-use development on property located at the 1100 through 1400 blocks of Front Street in Eugene. The applicant is Mr. Trent Michaels with the Future of Neighborhood Development LLC, represented by Ms. Grace Wolf of AKS Engineering and Forestry LLC. This is case number WGP-SB-ADJ-DAP-24-. Staff will identify the applicable approval criteria during the staff presentation. Before we get into the hearing this evening, I'd like to describe the rules that we follow. The hearings can be characterized as being quasi-judicial, and denote by quasi-judicial, it means there's certain due process rights that attach to the hearing and the process in general. You have the right to notice, you have the right to testify, you have the right to an impartial decision maker, and you have the right to a written decision based on findings of fact and conclusions of law. De novo means that any new evidence can be admitted into the record as long as it's relevant to the applicable approval criteria. The rules of evidence that are filed in circuit court don't apply here. We're a lot more flexible. Essentially, evidence that's admissible, I can accept, is that which would be commonly relied upon by a reasonably prudent person conducting their normal everyday affairs. It's important to note that you need to raise any substantive or procedural issue at this stage of the proceedings, or if my decision is appealed, and I'll talk about the appeal process in just a minute, appeal to the Planning Commission, you need to raise that issue for either myself or the Planning Commission. Failure to raise an issue, either substantive or procedural, will preclude your ability to raise that on appeal before the Oregon Land Use Board of Appeals. And that's a quasi-judicial administrative body created by the legislature to hear appeals of local land use decisions. The burden of proof, the ultimate burden of proof lies with the applicant to show by preponderance of the evidence that all of the applicable approval criteria have been satisfied. And the record in this matter includes the staff report, the county part of the hearing. To that. Staff report, the application, supplemental materials, and written and oral testimony received this evening and this year. Sometimes we need to leave the record open, and the record will include any new written material received during that time. You have the right to request that the record be held open an additional 7 days. You don't have to give a reason for that request. Normally, when that occurs, the record is held open. It's held open more than 7 days to allow other parties to review and comment on the materials that are placed in the record during that time. You also have a right to request a continuance of the hearing. That means the new hearing, the same subject matter. That's discretionary with the hearings officer. You need to explain why really holding the record open a certain period of time isn't as adequate to satisfy your need to place additional materials into the record. The hearing is recorded electronically. So we ask that when you testify, you use the podium next to Mr. Bryce there, his staff. And before you offer your testimony, state your name in case we have to do a transcript of the hearing that would allow us to accurately put your name to the testimony that you offer. Finally, generally we have a 15-minute time limit according to the applicant's presentation, and others are limited to about 5 minutes. We try to be flexible in that regard. I'll try to alert you if you're going over that time limit, but don't worry if you spend an extra minute or so with your testimony. In terms of the order of the hearing, we start with the staff presentation. We have Mr. Bryce Bishop, who authored the staff report. Following the presentation of the staff report, we allow testimony from the applicant's representatives, and then from others who are in support of the application. At the conclusion of that testimony, there's an opportunity for a representative of any neighborhood association to testify, and then there's an opportunity for others who wish to testify in opposition, or interested parties who might have a question or like to make a statement, or would rather not be identified as being either pro or con to the applications. At the conclusion of that testimony, I'll turn to staff and see if staff wishes to address any of the questions or comments that have been raised. And then finally, there'll be an opportunity for the applicant for a final summary or rebuttal. Any person who has standing, which means you testified in person or in writing, to appeal my decision to the Salem Planning Commission. Now, the appeal must be made within 15 days from the date of the notice of when my decision is mailed. The appeal before the Planning Commission is de novo. That means you can raise any new issues that weren't raised at this proceeding before the Planning Commission. The Salem Code requires that the decision maker disclose any ex parte contacts or conflicts of interest. An ex parte contact is a communication between the decision maker and a party to a matter the decision maker is hearing that goes to the substance of the matter and occurs outside this public venue. And if there is a ex parte contact, and sometimes those can't be, you can't avoid them sometimes. If that happens, the parties will have a right to question my partiality. A conflict of interest has to do with whether my decision will benefit myself, a family member, or a business that I'm associated with financially, or it would preclude a financial detriment to myself, a family member, or a business I'm associated with. In the spirit of full disclosure, I'd like to divulge that I worked at this cannery almost 60 years ago while I was a senior in high school at South Salem, and then during the summers and fall while I was in college. I fondly remember the can room and its noise and sauna-like atmosphere. I think that the CIA is still using it as a model to torture terrorists. Anyway, I'd like to take this opportunity to indicate that I've had no ex parte contacts, nor do I have any actual or potential conflicts of interest to declare. At this time, any party may challenge my impartiality or the jurisdiction of the hearings officer to hear this matter. Hearing no challenges, I'd ask for a staff presentation. Mr. Bishop.
Yes, it's exploded.
Just a second here while the screen warms up. For the excellent job, Zach. I couldn't figure them out. Thank you. Well, good evening, hearings officer, my name is Bryce Bishop with the Planning Division. I'm here tonight to present the staff report for the case before you this evening. It is a consolidated Class 2 Willamette Greenway development permit, tentative subdivision plan, Class 3 site plan review, Class 1 and 2 adjustment application, and driveway approach permit, along with an alternative street standard for the improvements of Front Street, and it applies to property and as you mentioned earlier, in the 1100 to 1400 blocks of Front Street Northeast. In terms of application processing, the application was submitted on March 15th of this year. After reviewing the plans and having revisions back and forth with staff and the applicant, the application was deemed complete on September 3rd, and then notice was subsequently sent on September 5th and posted on by the applicant's representative on the property on September 12th, and the 120-day deadline for this application under state law is January 1st, 2025. So the subject property is located to the north of the downtown, north of Mill Creek, and to the east of the Willamette River, and 1100 to 1400 blocks of Front Street. So on the screen here, we have the aerial photo, which shows the property highlighted in orange. The subdivision that's included with this proposal includes the entire 13.66 acre site, but the actual proposed development, further development of those for those lots is more than southern 2/3 of the site. The site is located in an area that is characterized by several higher classification streets, including Front Street, which is the street that busts the property on the east. Hood Street and Market Street, which are east-west running minor arterials, step into the property along its eastern boundary where it goes along Front Street. And then there's also the Commercial Street and Liberty Street couplet that goes out north out towards I-5. And then you have, of course, across the river, you have Wall Spring Park. You have the mouth of the Mill Creek Park, which is abutting property to the south along Mill Creek, which is one of those, I think, the smallest parks, certainly probably in the state of it. It's a very small park at the intersection or at the confluence where Mill Creek meets the Willamette River, and then you have Grant Elementary School over to the east, and then in between the subject property and the east, as you go further towards Broadway and High Street, it's a mix of single-family residences, businesses, and multi-family developments. And of course, there is a railroad line, which is the Portland and Western line, which they operate on Venus, Burlington, Northern Santa Fe's line. And of course, that is a significant feature that defines, this area, and you can have and has impacts on, what can be done here. It's had impacts for several years, but it's great to be at a point where we can finally potentially have a solution to go forward with the development of the site. So in terms of the comprehensive plan map, properties designated river-oriented mixed use on the comprehensive plan map, and that's a designation that applies along properties that front on the Willamette River. It encourages active recreation and open space and commercial and residential uses to benefit the Willamette River. So that generally applies, along the eastern side of Mill Creek. And then, in the surrounding area, you have a mixture of mixed use designations. You have central business district to the south. And then you have this industrial designated land to the north that is existing industrial users. And then you have, as you go further to the east, you have single family, and then as you go way to the east, in yellow, you have single family residential. So as you get closer to the river, you see a more intensive type of use. And of course, the Lima River is an important element and defining character for this property and one's in the area. In terms of the zoning of the property, it's zoned MUR, mixed use riverfront, and that implements the mixed use or the riverfront oriented mixed use comprehensive plan designation. And as the comprehensive plan designation would call for, this zone encourages mixed uses, commercial, non-residential, recreation, in relatively tall buildings. You can go to 70 feet in the zone to take advantage of proximity with the downtown and the river and these infill sites. The property is also within the Willamette Greenway overlay zone. So the first image here shows the Greenway boundary itself that comes down through the site. So the entire property is not within the Greenway, any portions of the property, and only some of the buildings on the site are within the Greenway. We'll see the site plan here in a few slides. Building 3, which is one of the southernmost of the 3 mixed-use buildings that are proposed on the site. Portion of that is within the Greenway. Either the food hall building, which is proposed to be reused from the existing building, as also partially within, pretty much fully in the Greenway. A portion of it is within the riparian buffer of the Greenway. The proposed winery building in the middle of the site, building 5, that is partially within the Greenway. And then the proposed food hall building at the northern end of the site. That's the property that's supposed to be developed. The site plan review application that is also partially within the Greenway. And then the green, this darker shade of green is the compatibility boundary, because the property is partially within that compatibility boundary. That's what requires the class 2 Greenway and the hearing for each application. So in terms of the site conditions, the site totals approximately 13.66 acres. There is, of course, the existing railroad line, which runs down Front Street, which is the front carriage of that street. There are trees, obviously, on the property because it abuts the Lima River. And the application materials, the applicant submitted a tree plan, and all the trees on the property, only 5 are proposed for removal in connection with the proposed development. And there is a small area of native vegetation that is also will need to be removed in order to, and that's near building 5, the winery building, and in this area of the site. In order to, the removal of the trees and the native vegetation is needed to accommodate the proposed Lima Greenway path that is going through the site north to south to meet the city's transportation plan and Parks Master Plan requirements for that path. And so under a tree ordinance, if you need to remove trees or native vegetation within a riparian corridor or any tree that's protected, it's exempt from a removal permit if it's necessary for the construction of a public path or trail that's identified in the city's master plans, which this path is. So that's why they didn't need a tree removal permit. So those trees and vegetation is allowed under the code. In terms of landslide hazard susceptibility, because it is on the east bank of the Lima River and above the river there is topography associated with the site and mapped landslide hazard susceptibility. As shown on here, the green shading or the green polygons represent 2 mapped landslide hazard susceptibility points. So when you take the mapped landslide susceptibility and add that with the development activity point value under our landslide hazard ordinance, it requires a geologic assessment to be done. And applicants did provide a geologic assessment with their proposal, and there are conditions that are recommended to ensure that all construction activities that occur on the site are consistent with the recommendations of that geo assessment. And the site is, of course, next to the Lima River and Mill Creek, so there are wetlands associated with those waterways that are adjacent to the property. So in the staff report, we see that there's a condition that they have to obtain any required permits from DSL and Army Corps in association with development of the property. And our wetlands ordinance, we don't have locally adopted significant or non-significant wetland. So our ordinance requires notice to the Department of State Lands. That notice was conducted, and they did provide comments that are summarized in the staff report indicating that permits may be required for this. So there's a condition to ensure that development will the property doesn't comply with the state requirements. And here's going to be a series of photos just providing a context for the site and the surrounding area. So these are some bird's eye views. This one is looking to the northwest at the Cambry site. So it's obviously to the north of Mill Creek here and the trees, and then it goes all the way up to the grass field here. And so, which is at where Shipping Street is. So you have Shipping Street on the north. You have Foot Street, which intersects with the eastern boundary of the site. You have Market 8th Street that also tees intersections with the site. You also have Market Street that faces and intersects with Front Street as a budding site. There's another street, Belmont Street to the south, which used to go through, but it was subsequently vacated. And you'll see on the site plan that there are three main access points into the development. There is the Belmont Alley entrance exit. There is the Market Street entrance and the Gaines Street entrance. So those entrances are all oriented to, well, the two existing streets, Market and Gaines, as they come into the site in order to provide orderly traffic circulation. But then it also aligns with the third one next aligns with where Belmont Street would have been, used to go through. So here's another view looking to the northwest. This one and climate, vegetation in relation to the existing buildings. I won't spend too long on this, but it just gives kind of an interesting perspective of the site. Thank you, Google, for and after that, we're going to jump down to Front Street and do a quick drive down Front Street. Again, courtesy of Google Maps or Google Street View. Just to kind of get a feel for what it looks like on the street today. Obviously, Front Street is a minor arterial. It's required to have a right of way width of 72 feet. And, the right of way south of Market Street is deficient. It's only 60 feet. And it lacks sidewalks on the east side. There is a sidewalk, wooden sidewalk over the bridge here. But so when you're south of Market Street on the site, it's very constrained for right of way. You have this existing building, to the east, and so it's really limited in terms of what can be done in terms of doing full minor arterial street improvement. And then we throw in the railroad line in the middle of the street, and it's offset improvement, not down the middle of the road, but off to the east. It does, create challenges. And as we go forward here, that railroad line, it continues down front, and you can see other pretty much a zero line building on the east, and then you have the railroad line. Front Street. So currently, as cars drive down Front Street, when there's no train, they're driving on tracks. And when there is a train, of course, they have to stop and they can't be. So let's continue going down the Front Street here with the subject property to the left, closer to the intersection of Market Street here. And then let's jump to the north, and then we're going to go back down towards Market Street. So this is the kind of the grass field area from that aerial photo. Spur line that we're out here, and just spur site. The area of the site where the proposed new redevelopment is primarily occurring. This application, and this will be in the area of lots 1 through 4 in the subdivision. So, and then obviously this is a old photo because this bridge over Front Street is no longer present. That's removed. So in terms of the proposed development itself, it's a neighborhood, a new neighborhood community. It includes almost like it's like blocks essentially with streets. Public streets are going through the driveway accesses that are being provided into the site are serving that function. There will be private driveways, not public streets, but there are 3 new 6-story mixed-use buildings that will accommodate 382 units in total. Ground floor commercial uses facing Front Street, which would include at this point development envisions primarily eating and drinking establishments, retail sales, and office. On the second floor of the proposed building, there are these open space areas where there are amenities for residents that live in the buildings that open out onto the Lima River for use. And then also in the three mixed-use buildings, there's some surface, or not surface, but ground level garage parking. So 2 rows of ground level garage parking in each ground floor of the building that are accessed, from the driveways, the north and south of the buildings. And then there is an underground parking level that is included in all 3 of the buildings that will have automated parking stalls that will be controlled by a automated system. So you drive in, park the car, you drop down, and then there's an automated valet system. So, and in addition to the new mixed-use buildings, there are 3. There's one existing building that will be reused as pretty much its existing, configuration. That's a proposed winery building number 5 in the middle. And then there's 2 other proposed buildings: the food hall and the food hall building and the general purpose market building that are located here and here. And those will be in the footprint of the existing buildings that will be repurposed and renovated to have a new appearance. And then in addition, there is a mixed-use path that is the riverfront path, or not mixed-use path, the multi-use path that is the riverfront greenway path that is proposed to go through the site, wrap around these buildings, and then continue north and south. So eventually, when funds are available, the path is planned to go all the way down to the downtown and to the riverfront path, so the riverfront park. At this point, obviously, there's not a requirement to build a bridge or upgrade. So the path goes through the site. In this portion of the site is the portion of the site that's subject to site plan review. This path terminated stub to the north here, and when lots 5 and 6 of the subdivision are developed in the future separately from this, then the path would have to be extended further to the north. But the subdivision does include the lots to the north. The actual development proposal is this mainly 1, 2, 3, and 4, lots 1, 2, 3, and 4 on the southern 2/3 portion of the site. And in terms of vehicle access, there's the 3 driveways: the Main Street entrance, the Market Street entrance, and the Belmont Alley. As bicyclists on Front Street will be, as you're going down Front Street, you would go and be diverted to the multi-use path. Via this trail connection or this path connection right here, which takes you to the multi-use path along the riverfront, and then you would come back through Belmont Alley to go down, to avoid this section of the site if you wanted to, because if you don't want to go down the frontage of the site or outside of the bike lane, the designated path would be around the site and then back, and then you get to the point where you have to cross the bridge and continue further to the site. So in terms of the subdivision, there are 6 lots proposed, and as shown on here, the applicant is color coded, the lots that are what the lots are intended for. So lots 1, 2, and 3, the green lots, are for the mixed-use buildings. Lot 4 is for the proposed reused buildings, and then lots 5 and 6, the orange lots, are for future development separately from this application. And along with, under the MUR zone, mixed-use riverfront zone, there is no minimum lot size or dimension standards, but there is a minimum street frontage requirement of 16 feet. So all of the proposed lots meet the minimum 16 feet of frontage, and meet the standards for being subdivided into these 6 lots. Along with the subdivision, there is an alternative street standard that's been requested to deviate from the standard minor arterial right-of-way improvement. And that is because of the constrained right-of-way maybe south of Market Street, which is shown here. So you see a wider right-of-way. You go from Market Street to the right or Market Street to the north. And then once you get south of Market Street, it goes down to 60-foot right-of-way. And then the rail line is in the middle. So with the narrower right-of-way width and rail line, alternative street standard has been requested that involves 2 options for the Front Street. Option 1 is an option 2 to a half street along the frontage of the subject property from the Mill Creek Bridge north to Shipping Street. And it would involve, again, half street improvement limited rail, so would include crossing guards, everything to stop traffic, but it would include raised to median along the western side of the railroad line to prevent vehicles from veering into the rail line. Currently, there is no barrier, and that raised median would also require right out only movement. So, in order to access the site, you have to come in from the north, take a right in, leave it, take a right out, and go south. And then in addition to the raised median, there would also be a fence or a barrier constructed on the top of the median to prevent pedestrians from crossing wherever they want to, because that's a big concern for the rail lines is to not have safety, not have people crossing in numerous places where there could be potential for accidents, injuries, fatalities. So the fence would be on top of the raised median on the western side and would direct pedestrians to specific areas on the site where there will be ADA crossings and ADA curb ramps at Market, Gaines, and Hood. And then there would be appropriate signage, and at these crossings there would be rectangular grounded flashing beacons for pedestrians crossing at those locations. And under this option, there's a requirement that the traffic engineer probably update and rescope their transportation impact analysis due to the increased traffic resulting from the right in and right out movements from the site. And that is part of condition 15, part of condition 15.1, part of the requirement. The other option is option 2. That's a full street improvement on both sides of Front Street from the Mill Creek Bridge to South Street, full street improvement, raised median on both sides of the rail line. And it's have the barriers to keep pedestrians from crossing areas we're not supposed to, direct them to the areas where they're intended to cross the intersections. I would include rail barricades for vehicles at the street intersections as you go north there. And there would also be the same ADA curb ramps and sidewalks and crosswalks at the intersections with flashing beacons.
Does the city have sufficient right of way to do the full street improvements?
We do have sufficient right of way to do either of the options.
Yeah, but even option 2 would be an alternative street standard. Because the property is within the greenway, it requires the class 2 greenway permit. And on the site plan here, I have the dashed green line that shows the boundary of the greenway. So there's building 1 here, building 2 in the middle, building 3. So as you can see, building 3 is bisected by the greenway boundary, so therefore it needs the greenway permit. And then there are the food hall building, which is entirely within the greenway, the winery, which is kind of partially in, and then the building, which is also partially in. And so, as identified in the staff report, the proposal complies with the greenway requirements of Chapter 600, and those are included in pages 10 to 18 of the staff report. There are 4 conditions of approval that were recommended for the greenway permit, 2 of which are standard conditions that are always that the code is required to be placed on every application, but then there were 2 additional conditions that staff placed on the proposal. And one was dealing with the design of buildings, the color and design of buildings 3 and 5. Look at the elevations in the packet. There's a variety of colors, kind of oranges, grays, blacks, grays, beiges, browns, and greens. And one of the standards in the greenway is that buildings have to be a color that's natural over the leaf tone to blend with the riparian environment or the riparian area. And so building the food hall building and the market building, when you look at those elevations and renderings, they are generally green or green and brown tones, which are natural earth and leaf tones. The winery building, it's proposed to be white, and then the southernmost of the 3 mixed-use buildings, it has a combination of oranges, blacks, greens, like black roof, beige walls, gray walls. So the staff reviewed it. We did feel that the oranges and the whites and the blacks, grays weren't necessarily the natural or the beige tones that were, that are envisioned in the greenway or in the greenway chapter to allow it to blend with the natural riparian environment. So there's a condition of approval requiring that those buildings 35 be of the brown or green color palettes. And there's a supplemental memo we received this evening that has the applicant's responses to the draft conditions attached to it, and so we've gone through and addressed. We still think we're amenable to the recommended revision of the condition that the buildings be natural earth relief tones, but we still don't think that white, black, or grays are necessarily colors that blend with the natural river environment, that they would more stand out and provide contrast and visual distinction, which is kind of contrary to the standard. But so generally, yeah, but other than those requirements, it meets the standards. There's conditions of approval that are proposed to ensure that it meets the requirements. And then in terms of the site plan review component of the application, we have to review the application for all of the applicable standards of the code, including the zoning district that it's in, which is the mixed use riverfront zone, the requirements for off-street parking in 806, the requirements for landscaping in 807, and then all other applicable standards in the code. And so it's identified in pages 20 to 30, pages 41 to 75 of the staff report. It generally meets the criteria with the exception of some standards where the applicant has requested an adjustment to them. And we recommended in the staff report that those adjustments be approved. And then we have conditions of approval that are recommended, conditions 20 to 32, to ensure the development conforms with the standards of the code. And this is just a quick look at the site plan again. So in terms of off-street parking, the city of St. Albans doesn't have a minimum off-street parking requirement. We do have a maximum parking limit though. So based on the uses that are proposed, the residential, the office, the eating and drinking establishments, and retail sales, the maximum allowed number of spaces for the development of the size would be 930 spaces. They are providing a total of 422 spaces, which meets the standards of the code. And the off-street parking spaces are provided in a combination of service parking that are located to the west of the buildings, the west of the new buildings, and the east of the reused buildings, and as well as a small parking area to the north of the building. And then there's also on-street parking that will be available in parallel parking fashion along Front Street there. And so we have the surface parking that's being provided. You have parking within the buildings, as you can see here by the footprints here. Parking ground floor of the mixed use buildings, and then you also have the basements, which have much more densely parked, automated valet type parking spaces in the basements. So that's how the total 422 spaces are provided on the site. In terms of bicycle parking, the code requires for multi-family that there be one bicycle space for every resident or every unit. And so based on the total units proposed, 382 square footage of the commercial uses, the minimum number of bicycle parking spaces for the development is 421. The proposed development provides 439, and those spaces are provided in a combination of long-term parking inside the building, and then also outside parking outside the building. For instance, in front of each entrance of the main buildings here, there are bicycle racks, and then there are bicycle racks near the entrances of each of the proposed repurposed buildings as well. And in terms of the bicycle parking spaces within the mixed-use buildings, those will be in similar fashion to the vehicle spaces. That there will be a series of racks that are mounted on like a tray. Those racks will, the machine will pick up the racks, bring them out, and you can park your bike, and drop the rack, the other bikes on it, the storage area. So those are automated bicycle storage areas also, which is allowed under the code. That's standard specific to it, but the racks do meet the requirements for blocking, securing the bike, in a position that would damage it, and access to those long-term areas are of course secured, and so nobody can just get in there and steal a bike. So standards. And in terms of locating, there's like minimum space requirement of 5 spaces. Proposed development provides that in the form of 3 loading spaces, 2 here, 2 here, 1 here, 4th here, and there's 1 space on the side that's dedicated. It's a vehicle space that is allowed to serve as a loading space because of the delivery vehicle sizes being anticipated small enough to meet the standard. The mixed use riverfront zone has a series of design, pedestrian and design standards. I'm going to go through those quickly here. So one of those is ground floor building height. The minimum required ground floor building height is 10 feet in this zone. They're proposing ground floor heights so the buildings 12 feet, so it exceeds the standard. And that ground floor height is to provide a more prominent appearance to the building, frames the public right of way, which is consistent with urban mixed use environment. Public pedestrian access in the chapters required to be provided at less than no more than 400 feet. And so you have 4 pedestrian access points from Front Street to the Willamette River and the path that's proposed along the river. And all of these are spaced less than 400 feet apart, 264, 270, and 349. So they meet that standard. So there is regular access through the site to the Willamette River as required by the zone. There's also requirements for buildings to be articulated, has to break up the building mass, and so that includes breaking up the building, separating the base of the building from the middle of the building, from the top portions of the building. So in this design, you'll see that the base is very prominent and it's articulated, or it's accentuated and articulated by the ground floor windows. There's changes of material where you have brick on the ground floor. You have horizontal trim elements between the ground floor and the second and fifth floor facades to break it up and distinguish the base of the building from the middle. In the middle, the building is articulated through recessed balconies, changes in color, pilasters, and then the top is differentiated from also horizontal trim lines and change in material. So the proposed building, and I only have one elevation here, but the elevations are generally consistent for all 3 buildings. And the existing buildings to the west, because they're existing, the standards of the MUR zone don't apply to those as identified in the MUR zone, but all the new proposed buildings, which the standards apply to, it does meet these standards. There's also a requirement for minimum percentages of ground floor windows. So along Front Street, the proposed building exceeds the requirement. As you look here, you can also see a lot of windows along Front Street, creating and inviting an active pedestrian environment along the street. And then along the riverfront, however, they're below the minimum percentage of ground floor windows by a small amount. This is primarily because the window requirement is minimum percentage required facing the street and facing the riverfront. And because these are residential units on the ground floor facing the riverfront, they're proposing a slightly less, percentage of ground floor windows than the code of otherwise required. And that's because, to try to provide a little bit of privacy for the units or the people in those dwelling units. But as you can see by the elevations, you still see windows provided at a regular interval. So it does, even though they're not quite at the percentage, you do have a nice, broken up ground floor facade with regular windows on that first floor for those residential units facing the waterfront. And then there's requirements for building entrances in the zone. So every building entrance, you have a building entrance for each tenant space facing the street, every ground floor residential unit facing the street or facing the riverfront. And so when you look at the building facades and the floor plans, you'll see that every one of the tenant spaces will have an entrance that faces the street. And each one of the ground floor units has entrances that face the riverfront. So it's that standard. And then there's a requirement for weather protection in this zone. It requires a certain minimum percentage of weather protection to be provided over all the ground floors facing the street and along the riverfront. And so there is the protection in the form of canopies and all these that exceeds the minimum requirement facing Front Street. And there's also the canopies and awnings are provided for each one of these units exceeds the minimum requirements for the protection facing the front for ground floor residential units. It's all documented. It's described in the staff report in detail. Then there's a requirement for parking location. So parking has to be located behind or beside buildings and structures that can be between the building structure and street. So in terms of what the site is laid out and these buildings, the vehicle access to parking is to the side of the buildings and behind these buildings. So there are no parking areas between the building and Front Street performs with that standard. So that's goes quickly through those mixed use riverfront design standards. And then there, as mentioned earlier, there were a series of class 1 adjustments and class 2 adjustments to deviate from specific standards. Those are identified in this slide. I'm not going to labor those as well identified in the staff report. But there's an adjustment for 3 of the buildings to slightly increase or to go above the maximum height of 70 from 70 feet to 74 feet. So we feel that the 74 feet equally rare meets the intent of the standard because it's in this mixed use group, mixed use group zone intended for higher intensity development. It's only a 4 foot deviation from the maximum 70 that's otherwise allowed. And from a pedestrian perspective on the sidewalk, perceiving a 4 foot difference in height, being able to determine. And so then there was required reductions to the 5 foot required parking in these area setbacks from parking lots and parking areas next to permanent parking lots. But the staff report we document that all of these meet the standards based on the materials provided by the applicant. So in terms of public comment, the site is divided. Within 2 neighborhood associations. The majority of the site is within the Grand Neighborhood Association. So that's like the northern, maybe 2/3, and the southern third is in the CANDU, or the Central Area Neighborhood Development Organization Neighborhood Association. Both neighborhood associations were contacted by the applicant prior to submittal, as required under the code. And we did receive any comments from the CANDU Neighborhood Association, but we did receive comments from the Grand Neighborhood Association expressing general support for the proposal that they did identify, as you see in the packet, a few issues of one is the greater pedestrian connectivity between the Front Street and the road front, and they're really just looking forward to more active dialogue with the applicant as the project goes forward. Even though the property is not within the Island Neighborhood Association, it's just the next neighborhood association to the north. We did receive a letter that's in the packet that came after the staff report from the Island Neighborhood Association that's expressing support for the proposal based on the revitalization, which training children to this area of the community. And we also received comments from public agencies, including Salem Kaiser School District. The school district reviewed the proposal and indicated that the site is within a hazard zone for walking for children to go to Grant Elementary School. And they indicated that a bus stop or a turnout and a possible pedestrian path would be needed. And so based on receiving that comment, we reached out to the representative from the Salem Kaiser School District to inquire what are the details of this connection. And as of today, and after reaching out last night and coming back this morning, he hasn't provided any additional details in terms of what they're looking for in terms of a bus stop. But I think generally staff's position is that there really aren't designated school bus stops, along roads. The school buses have their stop arms that come out, and so if if future elementary school age students are to be picked up at this site, the bus will be able to come down Front Street, stop, put out the stop arm, and they'll be able to get onto the bus and proceed to school. So at this point, we're not recommending the conditions of approval to address the school district comments because we don't have specificity to really address what they're wanting at this point. Also, we got comments from Portland and Western Railroad, which is important because the railroad line goes down the middle of Front Street. They reviewed the proposal and they don't object. Is providing the comments to option number 2, which is a full street improvement, because but they still indicate that it has to be further engineering needs to occur and it has to be fully approved by the city. Then also Santa Fe. They also submitted comments to option 1. They haven't had a chance to fully do option 1, so at this point they're not opposed to it, but it's further. Also received comments from Portland General Electric, and so their comments related to the concern about losing public utility that's 10 feet wide along Front Street. So generally, it's like subdivisions and things. All the 10-foot public utilities are along all streets for installation of water, groundwater, private utilities like phone, gas, electricity, natural gas, that type of thing. And they really want to see, they'd like to see required along Front Street, but as you see in the staff report, that 10-15 weeks contrary to development pattern. Some calls for buildings to be built out to the property line with the 0-foot setback. Can't provide 0-foot setback. You can setback a little bit further if you develop the area between the building and the street with pedestrian activities. So we're not looking at this on a regular mixed use zone, sort of the downtown CB zone kind of buildings that have 10-foot wide gaps, between the sidewalk and the street, because it's really just not conducive with an urban, environment you see all over downtown and stuff that world. And then we also did receive public comments. They were generally in support of the proposal, and one of the comments did stress the importance of making sure that there's adequate off-street parking to serve the proposed development. So based on that, I'll conclude my presentation and recommend the hearings officer approve the proposal as recommended by staff in the September 25th staff report. And with the conditions originally recommended, but then as further recommended for revision in the supplement that we provided to the city.
Can I get a copy of your presentation?
Yes.
I don't think the record has the Google photographs in it yet, and many of the schematics have been annotated by yourself, which I like to see.
So I'll do that.
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you. Could I clarify my previous response to your question about the front street improvements? We have adequate right of way on the development side of the street to accommodate the full improvement, but there would be a requirement for some additional right of way at the intersection of Market and Front on the opposite side of the street if the full improvement was constructed.
Thank you. At this time, is the applicant prepared to make a presentation?
Evening. My name is Trey Michaels, and I'm here today to represent our team as we present the Cannery project. As a developer who grew up in Salem, I am deeply committed to improving my hometown for responsible and innovative development. Over the years, I've had the privilege to deliver approximately 1,500 residential units in the Southeast, including contributions to master plan communities. Through this experience, I've developed a deep understanding of what it takes to create a best-in-class development that has a lasting and positive impact on the community. In addition to my local roots and hands-on development experience, I bring a range of professional credentials that guide our process. I'm a proud member of the National Town Builders Association, an NGDS professional, a Living Future accredited professional, a Congressman Urbanism accredited professional, and an eco-districts accredited professional. These credentials are critical to ensuring our developments are sustainable, resilient, and centered on community well-being. These certifications are not just titles. They reflect the principles that drive the work my team and I undertake. As an NGDS and Living Future accredited professional, I commit to building practices prioritizing energy efficiency, environmentally responsible materials. As a Congressman, urbanism and eco-district professional ensure that we are not just building for today, but creating spaces that encourage community connection, social equity, and long-term sustainability. The Cannery on Front Street is a cornerstone redevelopment project featuring 382 multifamily units and approximately 50,000 square feet of living space. Our vision is to create a vibrant, interconnected space that links downtown with the neighborhood. The commercial component will feature a food hall, cocktail lounge, event venue, retail spaces, wine tasting room, and market. All aimed at sparking economic growth and energizing this area. We are integrating advanced building technologies, including mass plywood panels, geosolar heating and cooling, and solar panels, ensuring that the Cannery will set a new standard and benchmark for sustainable development in the region. Our project also aligns with national green building standards and works alongside SANSAFE to improve the surrounding environment along the river. Our land use team includes Zach Pells and Grace Wolf from AKS, who have brought tremendous experience and expertise in urban planning and land use to this project. Together, we have worked meticulously to ensure that the cannery meets zoning and land use requirements and adheres to our high standards. Throughout the development process, we've been met with tremendous support from the Salem community, and this project seems a vital opportunity to rejuvenate a historic site that once served as the city's largest employer. Thanks to the stewardship of the Truitt family, who have been incredible partners, we are confident that this development will create a vibrant new community where people can live, work, and play. In conclusion, the cannery represents a unique opportunity to elevate the standard for development in the Salem MSA. This project will contribute to the city's economic growth and foster a deep connection to the Willamette River, setting the stage for a future where sustainability and community vitality go hand in hand. I'm proud to present this project to you today, and we respectfully ask for your support in bringing this vision to life. I would like to hand this now to Zach, who will discuss the staff report and present critical information regarding it.
Nice. Zach Pells, AKS Engineering and Forestry. We're located at 3700 River Road North. Hi, sir. And I guess I want to just start by thanking your staff, planning staff, especially all of the city staff in the preparation of this application. We did an extremely thorough job. Staff report, and I guess all of the correspondence and participation from staff leading up to the hearing today. Really great, just series of communication with staff. We really sincerely appreciate all the hard work of staff. Our project team is here tonight to answer any questions that you may have. We've got our traffic engineer online virtually via Zoom. It's good to know, but she is here. Any questions regarding traffic? So we'll be brief. There's really not a whole lot that we can say that your staff can really cover in their oral presentation report and their staff report. Like we said, there's an extremely thorough job throughout the staff report to identify all of the applicable criteria. We want to highlight really why we think the project is kind of the ideal implementation of the city's mixed-use urban council. We're going to do that through a series of illustrations and renderings that our team has put together. And I guess on that note, we'd like to enter this presentation with the public record for this planning file. There are just a couple of conditions of approval that we want to request your reconsideration of. Staff talked about one of them was the color of the building. We'll talk about that. And then condition of approval number 28, which includes a scrivener's error. We'll point out and we'll talk about that. But by and large, we are on board with the staff recommendation and appreciate all the staff's effort in helping us get to where we're at today. Try to save a little bit of time at the end to answer any questions that you have. So we'll quickly run through these slides, and your staff did a good job of kind of walking us through the site context. You can see here the site in orange sits just north of the city's downtown. It abuts the Willamette River and sits just west on the street. Site's about 13.5 acres as you're stepping in the middle. Site has been in use for industrial purposes and for cannery purposes since the early 1900s. And only kind of ceased operations by about 2019. And that industrial operation on that site for over 100 years was well served by an existing network of streets in the area. Your staff did a great job of talking about that street connectivity. Your staff also did a great job of talking about kind of the challenges that we face in developing this application, developing this project in the context of that active freight airline. And that's been something that we've really appreciated with staff's commitment to helping us to get to the point where we're at today. As you can see here on this slide, the site, as your staff pointed out, is in the mixed-use riverfront zone, and we overlay this portion of your staff to detail on that. I guess the real point I want to make with regard to that zoning district is that we think, again, that this project is really the ideal implementation of the city's aspirations for this mixed-use zone. And those are to, co-locate residential and commercial uses in a manner that can allow walking and biking for everyday activities. And in this zone in particular, in proximity to the land, so that people have good access to those benefits as well. And so I guess from here forward, we're just going to kind of show you a series of renderings that our team has put together that really illustrate how this mixed-use project really ideally implements that aspiration, that vision for the mixed use. So again, a little bit different than the elevation views that we saw from staff, but essentially the same information. You've got 6-story buildings, 380 plus residential units above ground floor commercial, so 50,000 square feet of ground floor commercial in these 3 mixed use buildings. And those are set just in front of those 3 adaptive reuse buildings, which will provide additional commercial amenities, not just to residents that will inhabit this site in the future, but also to existing residents and other folks who want to visit the site. Parts of town. So I'm just going to run through the site plan in kind of 3 key parts. We're going to talk about the adaptive reuse portion of the site. We're going to talk a little bit about mixed uses and then show you how that kind of knits the site. So again, as your staff mentioned, there are 3 existing buildings on site that will be reused to some degree for food hall. That's the building on the left there. Winery, that building in the middle, and then kind of a shared indoor-outdoor market area. This is a look at that food hall from the south, looking to the north along that interior courtyard. You can see, it's kind of tough to see on this screen here, you can see the Willamette River Greenway is integrated along the east facade of that food hall building, kind of integrates seamlessly into the pedestrian streetscape. The Willamette River Greenway continues north around the west side of the Winery building here. And you can see sort of how the commercial uses on the site integrate with the public space and really foster that mixed use, active pedestrian streetscape that the city has envisioned in this area. We talked a lot about these mixed use buildings. We kind of run through this. I just want to take this opportunity to show you our vision for these buildings on the site in the context of the site plan. Again, we mix these buildings. This is looking north along Front Street. And here, I mean, I think this slide really highlights sort of the interface between these mixed uses, the residential uses, the ground floor commercial spaces, and Front Street, and the potential that they may create a really active and vibrant streetscape again, which is in keeping with the city's vision for this mixed use. And finally, your staff did a great job of talking about this also, that the Willamette River Greenway Trail knits kind of all of this together, provides amenities not just for folks that live on site, but also provides kind of a welcoming opportunity for folks to visit the site from elsewhere outside of the site. And there's a lot of opportunity, as Mr. Bishop mentioned, that this pathway, this Willamette River Greenway pathway, be extended north and south as future development happens along the river. Again, we're looking here at the Willamette River Greenway as it's incorporated into our site on the west side of the line. Here's another look at the site looking to the east from the river, and you can see here indoor outdoor market space we've got planned. Building 3. Side of 3. I think this is our last slide. Shows up a little bit better on the screen behind you. You can see to the west of the interior vehicle access way, the kind of threads its way through the site from north to south. Again, that will be extended north and south as future development occurs along the river and south of the site. Again, we think that all of these elements combined really are kind of the epitome of the city's vision for the mixed use for the concept. City can support the application. So there's just a couple of tweaks that we'd like to recommend to the supplemental staff report that staff issued today. One of those conditional approval number 1 is not as we appreciate staff's inclusion of our suggested language, which mimics the language in the code. And I think just for the record, we just respectfully disagree with staff's colors like orange and black and that do naturally occur in nature, I guess, and our colors like orange, for example, are similar to changing. So we think there is room in the language of the line of the greenway, those kind recommendations or criteria that seek to have colors that are complementary to the adjacent riverfront. We think there's room to allow colors that we have shown. The real substantive change that we want to request is to conditional approval number 20, and that's really just a scrivener's error. We've got it shown here on the screen. We would just strike the portion of the first sentence that says including permits for civil site work or proposed development of new soil, because that's contradictory to the language in the second sentence, which does allow civil site work to happen prior to final plat. So we just think that was a scrivener's error on staff's behalf. Just and with that, we are happy to take any questions.
So on, as you know, the staff addressed your proposed modifications. And I guess they agreed with condition number 1, which you proposed it. So the only condition that is still haven't agreed on is condition 28.
Correct. And I think the purpose I want to bring up for condition approval is that staff, for the record, just stated in their supplemental staff report that they believe the green and brown color palettes are still more appropriate, even in spite of the change of the condition. We just want to clarify that we just respectfully disagree with that. But the language of the condition itself,
So you're sticking with the language that you initially proposed for condition number 28.
for conditional approval number 20, we are requesting that portion of this sentence shown here that's shown strike through be edited is shown here.
You don't have any trouble reading that from here.
So I'm happy to read it out loud if that's helpful.
Why don't you do that?
Yeah, so the way conditional approval 28 is currently written, is modified by staff, is as follows. Final subdivision plat shall be recorded prior to issuance of any building permits, including permits for civil site work for proposed development on each lot. The final plat is not necessary prior to the issuance of erosion control, cleanup, civil site work, public works permits. Those two sentences contradict each other just for the fact that the first sentence says that the subdivision plat needs to be recorded prior to civil site work. And the second says it does not need to be recorded prior to civil site work. So we request that the portion of the first sentence requiring plat be recorded prior to civil site work is struck.
Later in the hearing, I'll ask staff to respond to whether they agree with the function to the modification. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you. Others in the audience wish to testify in support of the applications.
Good evening. I'm Dan Kent, Executive Director and co-founder of Salmon Safe. I'm happy to talk tonight about Salmon Safe's participation in this project and our findings to date. Salmon Safe was founded by river and native fish conservation organization Pacific Rivers in the late 90s. We're a non-independent, Portland-based nonprofit organization operating across the West Coast. Salmon Safe offers expert third-party peer-reviewed certification programs across many land uses, ranging from farms and vineyards to large-scale urban development projects like this one to transportation infrastructure. Salmon Safe got its start working with farms and wine growers here in the Mid-Willamette Valley in the late 1990s, and it's interesting to note that some of those first certified farms were suppliers to the cannery back in the day. With respect to our urban development certification work, Salmon Safe engages in projects early in development planning and seeks to influence project development with respect to stormwater management, habitat conservation, enhancing site biodiversity and ecological function, construction phase pollution prevention and planning for on-site operations with respect to water conservation and protecting downstream water quality. Salmon Safe works at some of our region's highest profile projects, ranging from OHSU's South Waterfront campus to the Nike campus, to a lot of work over the years with City of Portland, City of Eugene, City of Ashland, a lot of Puget Sound work with campus scale projects with Google, Microsoft, Expedia, and many others. Across all of our projects, Salmon Safe fields a multidisciplinary PhD level independent science team comprised of salmon biologists, stormwater scientists, water quality scientists, urban ecologists, and related fields. Salmon Safe certification standards are peer reviewed and available to view at salmonsafe.org. Salmon Safe is just starting our assessment work on this overall development plan and operations for the 13-acre cannery project. Salmon Safe's assessment of the project involves the following steps, starting with review of design plans and related documentation for the first phase of development, including the parking structures, multifamily development, food hall, and related construction. And then pre-assessment site visit, focusing on Mill Creek and Willamette River riparian conditions, really getting a sense of the lay of the land. Then comprehensive on-the-ground site assessment with our science team on the site. We'll be reviewing restoration planning for Mill Creek and the Willamette River. We'll be evaluating construction phase stormwater management plans. Then we'll be looking at guidelines for future phases of development of this project and planning for operations. And while our independent science team is very early in its evaluation of the project, I can report some initial findings with respect to our pre-assessment, which is now underway. In terms of stormwater management, the proposed project design features a series of bioretention facilities that will receive stormwater runoff from 100% of impervious surfaces, including rooftops and hardscapes at grade, before discharge ultimately to the Willamette River. The combination of green stormwater infrastructure and planted areas will catch, filter, and slow the release of all stormwater landing on the site. This is a level of stormwater design that is more robust than we typically see at even the most environmentally innovative projects across the region. With respect to ecological function, in its current pre-development state, the site has much room for improvement. It is characterized as almost entirely impervious surfaces devoid of vegetation, aside from the Willamette River Greenway. In terms of redevelopment, the arborist report indicates that roughly 80 existing trees, virtually all of them will be retained, as I believe was discussed earlier. The site planting schedule appears to be biased towards native and adapted trees, shrubs, and ground cover plant species that will improve on-site ecological function. As for project design, the proposed buildings have been sited in a way that complies with the city's guidelines for redevelopment, but may not provide adequate riparian buffer along Mill Creek or the Willamette River, and this will be a focus in our science team's work with the development project team. In terms of habitat protection and restoration, the riparian aspects of this project will be another primary focus for our independent science team moving forward. For example, the science team will be looking at the riparian area at the mouth of Mill Creek and reducing artificial constraints of the river, such as riprap. Overall, we'll be looking for riparian habitat to be restored across the site, but we recognize that it may not be feasible to implement all of this work in early phases of the project. In summary, Salmon Safe is still early in our work on this project, but today we have been impressed with the openness of the project team to our input, with the goal of the project having a beneficial impact in the Willamette River watershed. Our overall impression is that the project is positive as a candidate for eventual Salmon Safe certification. Thank you.
So, Mr. Kent, do you feel that as you go through your assessments, it will be timely in terms of getting the information back to the applicant and the city so they can actually make changes if they're necessary?
Absolutely. Yeah, the benefit of being involved at this early stage is we will be working with the applicant's design team throughout the process.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Are there others who wish to testify in support of the application?
Hello. My name is Lee Tracy Gaynor, and I'm the acting chair of the Highland Neighborhood Association. And I'm also the land use chair by default. I reside at 1915 Maple Avenue Northeast, in what I consider to be close proximity to the proposed development, less than a mile from my house. So I would just like to say I'm super excited. I'm so excited about this development. I'm just, our neighborhood is thrilled. Anyway, I'm here to express my strong support for the redevelopment of the former Truett Brothers Cannery site, known as the Cannery Project. This project has been discussed in our neighborhood meetings, on a lot of sidewalks, a lot of Saturday mornings. And it's just, the developers have reached out to the appropriate neighborhood associations, Can Do and Grant, and we're adjacent, but the community feedback I've received is positive and very, very high excitement. I believe this mixed use development will bring numerous benefits to our neighborhood and the wider Salem community. I will say that this evening I am giving testimony as myself. We do have 3 board members that are also very strongly feeling positive about it, but we didn't have time to have a meeting in between this testimony to have me speaking fully on behalf of the neighborhood. Which we can do in the future if necessary, but we're just here to lend our support. So the things that I think would be beneficial are the revitalization of an underutilized industrial site. The project will transform a vacant cannery into a vibrant mixed-use neighborhood, breathing new life into this section of our riverfront. Increased housing options. With new dwelling units, the cannery will provide much-needed housing alternatives in our area, helping to address Salem's housing shortage. We already house a very large number of what's classified as affordable housing options and social services in the Northeast neighborhoods. We really, really, really want to see something different. We want to have something that's a tax base. We want to have something that brings people into our neighborhood. Not that those things aren't important, and we do support those, but we're just thrilled to have something different to offer in our neighborhood. Economic boost to ground floor commercial spaces, food hall, winery, market will create jobs and attract visitors, stimulating economic activity in our neighborhood. We need this. Enhanced riverfront access, the development's pedestrian friendly design, including access along the Willamette River, will improve public enjoyment of our beautiful waterfront. We want this. We want opportunity to positively interact with our river. Thoughtful design projects architecture respects Salem's history while providing modern amenities, and the preservation and repurposing of the existing winery building is particularly essential. Community spaces, the inclusion of a second-story outdoor community open space, I believe I read in there, will foster a sense of community among the residents and also people that are visiting. Sustainable features, we appreciate the incorporation of solar panels on the food hall and market buildings, demonstrating a commitment to environmental responsibility, sustainability features, improved infrastructure. The proposed upgrades of Front Street are welcomed and will enhance safety and accessibility in the area. And while I understand that some adjustments to city code are being requested, I believe these are reasonable accommodations that will allow for a better overall project. The benefits of this development far outweigh any minor deviations from standard requirements. And I ask the hearings officer and those involved in moving this application forward to support a pathway to yes. That's something that we were told by the new city planners and managers, that that's what Salem is really focusing on with our Salem plan, and it's just a pathway yes for, let's pretend we're a city, a vibrant city. So I'm really want to relate my gratitude that we're willing to invest in our neighborhood and the city of Salem. So thank you. And in conclusion, the Cannery project represents a transformative opportunity for our riverfront and surrounding neighborhoods, and I enthusiastically support this development and urge you to approve the application. Thank you so much for your time.
Any others who wish to testify in support of the application? Oh,
Go ahead. No, you for ladies first, what all means.
heads first come.
My name is Sandy Underberg. I am the founder and CEO of Diabetes Support Services. And we're here to support this project in a little bit different manner. In 2007, I founded Diabetes Support Services, realizing there was a need for diabetes education in the community with no idea how badly it was needed. Well, in the past 17 years, we have served over 50,000 people who have come to us for our classes, our support group meetings, our health fairs and such. So we understand the vision. This has been a result of working with the community and finding the people who need our services. And so Renee was our vice president, Leslie who is our board treasurer. The three of us together have 150 years experience of living either as a diabetic patient or as a caregiver. I bet you didn't think we look that old. And so anyway, we understand the vision, and this is the vision that we recognize and that we are supporting. And so I'd like to introduce Renee.
So my name is Renee Lacey, and with Diabetes Support Services. And I am also, as part of the group, very excited about this. And one of the things that you really notice when it comes to the state of the health of the community, and that is having a place where people are inspired and motivated to step into, to improve themselves. We have this walkway that will provide a connection between movement and the greenway and nature and all of that, which really is important to healing and to helping people in a more healthy way. The whole eco-friendly part of this, the whole development inspires the idea of wanting to live healthy, of wanting to aspire to better health. And coming from diabetes and a diabetic population, the CDC says that by 2025, next year, 50% of the population will be diabetic or pre-diabetic. And that's a lot of people in this city. And so providing this inspiration, this community, because the other part of healing and health is being part of a community. It's part of belonging to something. And I see this project as an inspiration of setting an example of supporting and guiding people to a healthier life. It shows the whole picture of eating, of enjoying life, of getting your exercise, of living in great environments. And not only the people that live there, but inviting the entire city and people outside the city to come see. So we're in total support of this project. So thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Chair and Mayor Bishop. My name is Tom Hoffer, and I serve as the CEO of the Salem Area Chamber of Commerce. We're located in Ward 1, a short 3 blocks from the proposed cannery project. We represent nearly 1,100 small businesses and 45,000 employees in Salem. At the Salem Chamber, we believe in helping businesses prosper so our entire community may thrive. Thank you for the opportunity to share our thoughts on the proposed development on Front Street. This is an exciting topic to be discussing as a community, and not always when I'm at this podium are we talking about excitement. There are many challenges that our city faces, from budget, police and safety, and helping our friends and neighbors on the street. So to see a community project like this is very uplifting for us. We believe the cannery project also to be a transformative development that will connect our city together with South Minto Brown Park, contiguously all the way north up through our beautiful riverfront park, and see Front Street become another great area for our residents to enjoy. The economic engine that was Truett Brothers unfortunately has vanished from our community and our tax rolls. The numerous jobs and paychecks once received on Front Street property are now deeply missed in the Salem economy. So we're fortunate to have visionary individuals seeking to reestablish an economic engine on Front Street. Salem is a true destination, and I'm not just sharing that from the perspective of a business person in our community. Tourism is a huge part of our economic driving, an economic driver in our community, and this provides yet another diverse, thoughtfully constructed location for our residents and visitors to be excited about when they come to Salem. And it falls directly in alignment with our city council and municipal goals. The vision of Mr. Michaels and his team matches what Oregonians and Salemites desire most: conductivity and energy in our community. From the thoughtful accessibility to innovative building techniques, this development truly is a remarkable and relevant showcase for Salem. And the fact that it's being brought forward by homegrown talent, cognizant of what Salemites love about our community, is very powerful. Our community is in desperate need for diversified housing, not just affordable housing, but all housing options. And our residents in Northeast Salem, where our chamber is, and where many of our members conduct their business each day, see a lot of developments occurring, but they aren't always as diverse as we'd like to see. The cannery project would be a significant contributor to our local tax base in the years ahead, becoming an additional tax stream to a tight city budget that's yearning for additional dollars to advance community livability and safety. This Front Street property, as I alluded to, is simply a once in a lifetime opportunity to create something exciting, inclusive, attractive, and uniquely Salem. Very few Oregon communities will be experiencing the excitement of developing a project facing the Willamette River, one of the best views and greenways we feel our state has to offer. Its conductivity to our roots, the land, and the water are deeply Salem. And simply stated, it's our gateway to Salem's next prolific regional development. We rest comfortably knowing if we are successful in this venture, additional revitalization will come to the area we call home, the North Downtown. On behalf of the Salem Chamber Board of Directors and our valued membership, we appreciate the opportunity to share our perspective this evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, Mr. Bishop, and staff. Thank you for being all here tonight. The diverse set of support we have for this exciting project. My name is Josh Kay with First Commercial Real Estate, and I am here to express my support for the proposed redevelopment of the former Truett Brothers cannery site. This project is a catalyst for our city and offers a unique chance to revitalize an incredibly underused and non-contributing property and transform it into a vibrant mixed-use neighborhood, which will greatly benefit our community and enhance Salem for years to come. First, the existing core building infrastructure is functionally obsolete and unsuitable for modern use. The Truett Brothers even had an opportunity to sell to an industrial user to continue on with use, but they chose to pursue a comprehensive redevelopment instead, demonstrating a commitment to the city's goals and the future and fulfillment of a vision long held by the Truitt family. By adaptively reusing some structures as a food hall, winery, and marketplace, this project honors the industrial heritage while meeting contemporary needs for a successful mixed-use development. Second, while the plan includes a 3 6-story mixed-use buildings with 382 dwelling units, addressing our city's housing shortage, these residences will be thoughtfully designed to create an inviting environment that fosters community and connection with nature. Lastly, the development enhances pedestrian access along the Willamette River, ensuring that the area's natural beauty is accessible to all. The project blends urban living with our city's natural environment, demonstrating how thoughtful design can balance development and nature in a historically industrialized area. In conclusion, the cannery represents a vision for a sustainable and thriving community. And by transforming obsolete structures into vibrant spaces, it honors our past while building for the future. And I strongly urge you to support this project as it aligns with our goal of a dynamic, livable, and connected community. Truly our Salem. Thank you.
My name is Tyler Ferris. I'm Vice President of Ferris Engineered Wood based out of Lyons, Oregon. I'm a 4th generation Oregonian growing up here in the Sandian Canyon. Our company, Ferris Engineered Wood, employs about 430 residents here from Salem all the way east to Lyons, Staten, and up into Edina. We have over this last few years developed our own innovative wood product, a master wood panel called the Mass Fly Panel. If you're familiar with the Chemeketa project, Chemeketa Ag Center, as well as the Salem Public Works Building, those are both examples of our buildings that we've produced here for the Salem area. But we've been involved in much more iconic buildings as well, such as if you've traveled through the Portland Airport recently, we provided the entire 9-acre all wood roof elements to the Portland Airport. In addition, we've been involved in the tallest wood tower on the West Coast out in Oakland, California. We are currently involved in the Collaborative Innovation Complex down at the Oregon State University, which will be the largest supercomputer in the United States by the time it's finished, enclosed within an all wood structure. I think that the cannery and put forward by the fund and Trent is that type of iconic building for Salem, where it has an opportunity to use the latest of green and environmentally sensitive building products in order to store embodied carbon right from the beginning of the project and create a truly green building. For Salem, I think this has the opportunity to have far fewer truckloads delivered to the project, all pre-manufactured with fast construction and a much quieter building site as well. So I think there's a lot of opportunities for Salem in order to approve this project. I think that Trent and the rest of the project team deserves all of our support in order to push this project forward. And Ferris Engineered Wood is fully supported. Thank you.
What was the name of your company again?
Ferris Engineered Wood, Ferris Lumber Company, Lyons, Oregon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there others who have not testified nor put their name on the sign-up sheet that wish to testify in support of this application? Are there those who wish to testify in opposition? Okay. I'm gonna have to approve this project. I'd like to hear if staff wishes to address, at least in specific, condition of approval of number 28.
Thank you. The supplemental staff report does provide findings that says we agree with the applicant's request to allow civil site requirements. I just left out that strike through that they're recommending, so I'm totally fine with that revision.
Okay, so your acceptance with 28 as the most recently modified.
Correct.
Okay. I do have some questions about the use of white and black as building painting. Doesn't the criterion talk about non-reflective surfaces?
It does.
I would think that white by definition is going to be a reflective surface.
Yeah, it does say in the standard, the material should be non-reflective in colors, natural or earth and stone. And I would point out in the supplemental memo, we did say that we agree with the recommendation to revisions to the condition, but we still find that black, gray, and white aren't as a finding, as part of the condition, that those don't meet the standard.
Final summary, rebuttal by the applicant's representative. You don't have to.
I know, but it's such a great project, I feel like I should say something.
There isn't a lot to rebut.
No. So you're right. Zach Wells with AKS Engineering, I agree, there's really nothing to rebut, we appreciate everyone's time and attention to this project. I think we just want to close our, by just thanking everybody, staff, and all members of our team for a great job. So thank you.
And the presentation you made will go into the record.
Yes, thank you.
That's a statement, not a question.
Oh, yes, yeah.
Okay, there's no further business for the hearings official. I'd like to indicate my intent is to approve the various applications that are subject to the hearing today. As quickly as possible, I'll expect the decision out next week at the latest, and thank you for your participation and the great job everybody's done. Especially want to accommodate staff. That was a largest staff report I've ever seen in the 40 years I've had a hearing. It took me 2 days to read through it. Oh, we're adjourned.